carry around, the old school books, the couple. He always had one of those, and he was constant. He was either on buses or in planes.
Didn't he also used to carry a briefcase around with him?
A briefcase?
And it had things in it, like a Polaroid camera and stuff.
That briefcase?
That one.
Oh, we'll get that one later.
Okay.
My thoughts. Now, he constantly had, one or two things in his hand. He either had a book to write or a Conan the Barbarian comic. He was nuts about comics.
Really?
Yeah,
Conan the Barbarian?
Conan the Barbarian. And then for some, I think he actually saw him a little bit of Conan in himself,
Right.
Yeah, but, which is quite odd. But yeah, he was constantly writing, and some of his lyrics, to this day, once again, I've revisited all those songs we've been doing. And the lyrics are just a knockout, and I'm a little bit biased because I'm from that Bon era of the band, but to me he had a great, his sense of lyric and his sense of meter was fantastic because he had humour. There was this hard-ass rock and roll band, but he injected a very necessary light shade in it. There was a lot of humour in his lyrics, and I think a lot of people related to that, and I think it's possibly somewhat missing now, to my taste, But yeah, a great guy to work with. It was so odd though because you'd be out with the guy, and because, as you probably might have seen, I'm only 5'6", but I was the tallest in the band, and you go out with him. Bon was probably an inch shorter than me, and you go out with him, and he'd be standing at the bar, and people would go, "Hey mate, your pal looks so much like Bon Scott, I can't believe it," And no one would actually pick it was him until they heard his voice. And they heard his voice and saw that great broken smile of his. They knew it was him. But that was a great thing. We could be anonymous, but my time with my memories of the band, a lot of it is tied to Bon, and it's probably an odd situation, but I became closer to Bon on a personal level after I'd finished with the band. I was living in Randwick, quite close to where he used to have his gigs in Coogee Road, and I spent a lot of time with him. Probably would have been the last year of his life. He was in a very happy place. He had a new motorcycle. He was drinking way too much and putting a whole lot of things into his system that he shouldn't have been. But he got to the point where he felt successful enough to even think and tell me that he wanted to make a solo album. And I've got to tell you, I just wish he hadn't stayed around long enough. I wanted to be a fly on the wall at that band meeting when he told me he was going to a solo album. Man.
Which brings up another question. So how did he get along with the Youngs? Were they close or were they not close? I mean, did they hang out a lot together, the three of them?
I don't think Bon necessarily hung out with the guys in the band on a social level a lot anyway. Bon would be always very ready to split from the band. I think it probably had a lot to do with the age difference because I know I was 19 when I joined the band, Bon was 29, so there's a rather large gap in years. So yeah, he had different interests. To me, he was from a different generation. It was much like having your mad uncle on the road with you. The guy that drinks too much at weddings and grabs all the chicks on the butt. That was him. You've done that. I got you now. I got your number, Gable.
There have been moments.
Yeah. So yeah, with Bon, it's. I got to tell you, he was. I know he shared the same commitment as the rest of the band, and I'm sure that he saw the band as the only band he wanted to be in at that time. That's the only thing that drew us together, was the fact that the band cemented us together. I don't think, except for Angus and Malcolm, I'm not sure that the five of us in that lineup would have necessarily had a lot to do with each other. If we were in different bands, our paths wouldn't have crossed. We were thrown together in that band by necessity. And I'm not sure that any of us were. Well, it's a difficult thing to get right. There was a strong friendship between myself, Angus, myself, Malcolm, and Phil, because of and Bron was also part of that too. But our friendship had very little to do with what was going on in the band. They were completely different areas, and what was going right or what was going wrong in the band at the time, unfortunately, could affect those friendships. But the friendship was sort of it was a different thing. We happened to be travelling together, but it's an odd point to get across. But you know, we were close, but we were close because we were thrown together by the band. But our friendships were divorced from what was going on.
So you're on top of the world, at least in Australia. You're a long way to the top. And that film clip on the back of the bloody truck, mate, down in Melbourne. We all know that film clip, don't we?
Of course we do.
You were
I was there.
And he was there. and the jailbreak film clip.
Yeah.
And with the out on the rocks and all that kind of thing. Tell us about that experience.
Well, both those clips were very much Ian Meldrum's doing. Molly Meldrum. He's come up with this idea. You'll be aware of the Channel 2 thing, Countdown. It was his thing, and both Meldrum's idea to do location shoots, one on the back of the truck, one in the quarry in Sunshine, which is my wife Billy's home suburb. Nice quarry. But with that those clips, Meldrum drove the whole thing, and Molly's regarded as the guy that broke ABBA worldwide, and he did. But I think people sort of forget, or probably not all that aware, that he broke two bands to me. He also broke AC/DC, because without his support, I think I think the AC/DC story would be a lot different, because he's the guy that got us going here in Australia. That and Michael Browning coming on board were the things that got the band to reach the tipping point, to get the band going, and it happened so damn quickly. It was quite stunning. But yeah, Melbourne was important, but those clips were amazing. The one we did for Jailbreak, we did in a quarry in Sunshine. We perched up on all these rocks, and what they did, they had this. They obviously didn't know our sizes, because they had these police uniforms for Malcolm and myself. We both could have fitted in one. But they were perched up on these rocks, and they said, "Okay, we're going to set some bombs off. Don't react to them." Cool, I won't react. And what these bombs were, this is well before workplace safety, let me tell you. These things were these metal canisters, thick, with a mouth of, probably 6 to 8 inches across. And what they did, they called them bombs. They weren't even bombs. They loaded up these 2 large plastic bottles of petrol. And then one guy was like, "Don't want to lose." Throw a match down it, and the thing would go off. And they were going off probably only 10 feet behind us. That's probably what happened to my hair. I'm telling you, it's just this whoosh, and these police uniforms are synthetic. And when I actually took the jacket off, the jacket and the shirt had actually bonded together into this weird thing. So there was something going on with the petrol flash. It had bonded, it glued itself together. So it didn't glue it to me, but and they had this other thing. They had this machine gun, this pneumatic. It had compressed air to set this thing off. So what they did, we need the rifles firing. So this thing had a great muzzle flash. So we got it, and then the way they set it off, they had the hose with the compressed air down my trousers. Right? So, fire this, mate. Man, it's lucky I can have kids. Yeah, mate. I tell you what.
But it didn't give you a thrill.
No, I think I might have lopped a couple of trees, branches off the family tree that day. This thing was, but that was the thing. That was. They're great memories, and going down Swanson Street for the long way to the top thing, that was a blast too. I only just saw that video again the other night, and I'm just astounded. I thought Melbourne was a big town back in '75, right? It looks like, oh God, it's just
It looked like Adelaide.
No, it looked like Adelaide. Unkind to anyone from Adelaide, but no, it just looked like a country town. It's just amazing how much it's changed. But it sort of gives you the feel for actually how long ago that was. If Melbourne looked like that, that's a long time ago. So, and it's like we're talking now. What that's one way the top film clip is 36 years old, and it just blows me out. You listen to the start of that song, and Malcolm's intro into it. It sounds like it could have been recorded 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Those songs. Once again, I'm probably not the best one to comment because I'm a little bit biased towards. I love that music, but it still sounds very current to me.
I mean, there's so much subject matter that we want to go to, and we're limited with time. But the band gets overseas.
Yep.
You know, and I remember seeing an interview on YouTube of you guys in London where Bon looked like he'd stolen a banana, and coincidentally he had it jammed down his pants. He didn't really need to jam it down his pants, but nonetheless he did. Do you remember that interview? Do you remember that time in London? Do you remember that time being overseas?
I do. That was when we very first went to London, and we were doing a string of shows at the Marquee, which became our power base, much like Hard Rock Cafe in Melbourne was our power base to kick us off. Yeah, it was an amazing time because we arrived there being this rock and roll band. Because we had just going back a few months, we had a bit of an issue in Australia where we had two loads of people following us. We had the Countdown crowd, which was screaming teeny boppers, for some reason loved us. I don't know why, because we're all ugly critters. But I was the best looking dude in the band. Go figure. It doesn't say much about the other guys. And then we used to go play in the pubs, and we played a hot room, 1,500 Sharpies kicking the shit out of each other. You know? So we go over to England, and then all that teeny bopper thing disappeared, and I think the band started to become AC/DC in the real sense once we went to England, because we then become playing at gigs who were just, you know, unfortunately for me, because I'm really crazy about girls, 99% guys, you know, and that's when the band started to become the band as we view it now. But yeah, it was an interesting time. But when we got there, we were hopelessly out of time with what was going on with music. We got over there being this, we were getting compared to the Alex Harvey band. We were getting compared to like Status Quo, those boogie bands. And all they wanted to know was about the Dam and Rat Scabies and all these guys with these weird names. That punk was just taking off.
Yep.
And on Monday nights we do the Marquee, and 300 yards down the road on Oxford Street, the Sex Pistols were doing Monday night at the 100 Club. So we were only 300 yards down the road from them, but we were miles away from each other musically. And so it was odd. We were just, you know, caught out. A lot of bands would have been thrown into a new situation like that and catered to what was going on. And I think that was a great thing about the band, is it always stayed true to itself. It's always been that band, and that's a lot to do with Angus and Malcolm's just tunnel vision about it. But England was, to me, we could go there and we were a new band. No one knew us, so we go and do gigs, and people would say, "Man, these guys that sound like they've done 500 gigs together." They didn't know we had. We've done all the gigs, we've done all the hard yards, and, you know, recorded 2 albums. By that stage, both